What's up, everybody? It's Pikel with League of Items, and we had our long video that went almost an hour. So we're going to condense it for everybody. We were going to do a top 10, but then we did weighted averages, and then the top 10 became more than the top 10. So, Billy, wave high. We're doing it.
Hey,
All right,
everybody.
we're just going to get straight into it. I've already given Billy permission to yell at me and tell me to shut up if I'm taking too long, so I already feel like I'm taking too long. Let's get into the first team. First up, according to the weighted averages in the inaugural League of Items Global Power Rankings, we have Team LGD. Billy, do you have anything you'd like to say about LGD?
I'd like to see them here. I think they are, a team that you've mentioned a lot that you think are underrated and don't get enough credit. I agree with that. I think they have some great players.
Peanut is the man.
Peanut's the man, and I think they deserve to be
I
on
agree.
here.
So in my rankings, I had him at 11. I guess you had him right about the same.
Yeah, I had them at 14. I think that these global ego rankings are a little high on the LCK teams at the moment.
Yeah.
Is just my take. So
Sure.
I might even bump them a little bit higher.
Okay,
But
yeah.
but
So
yeah,
the only thing
roughly the
that I
same.
would say is that LGD, after their victory over World Elite, I think that was huge, because they were an underdog actually going into that match. I had LGD in that match, so I was pretty happy about that. Yeah, Peanut, very good player. Longshi was an upgrade in the top lane, more of a solid player. Xie was a great pickup for them. Zhao Meng and Missing do a good job in the bot lane. And I think that's all we have to say about LGD. Next up, this might surprise some people, because they've looked like garbage recently. But next up, we have Fun Plus Phoenix. So there are two reasons to be shocked about this. Maybe you're the kind of person who likes long-term talent, and Fun Plus Phoenix, you would think, is still higher in the global power rankings. But recently, FPX has lost a bunch of matches in a row, and a lot of people are afraid. So, Billy, how much movement has there been in your FPX ranking?
Yeah, they've been. It was mentioned in the longer video. They've been dropping like a stone the past 2 or so weeks. My model, which has a longer look back period and sort of values more so that sort of long term talent, that you were talking about, has them higher. So, I put myself in that category. I think qualitatively. So I have them at 15. I think you have them at 9. I'd probably put them higher if I was doing
Yeah,
this myself and
yeah.
not just based on the numbers. So I'm okay with them being there, but certainly something to keep an eye on. If they lose a couple more games, it really won't matter how they fare up in the power
Yeah,
rankings because
and
they won't
that's
be
so
at
we
Worlds.
actually were discussing that a little bit last night. Gimgoon was subbed in for Khan, and Billy asked me, do you think that it's necessary? Like, what are the reasons that a team would do something like this? And I'll just kind of give the quick backstory. So Khan was brought to FPX from T1 to be the carry top laner that would make the difference for Fun Plus Phoenix at Worlds in the future. They were already able to win a World Championship, but they've identified a weakness within their own roster, and they brought in Khan. So last split, because of coronavirus and everything, it kind of stunted the growth of Khan meshing with the team. And then in the summer, they went full con and full contact. TM trademark on that one. We should make shirts. We should make shirts that say full contact on it, similar to the Ball Don't Lie shirt that you're wearing right now, which is great. So they said, let Con play with the team, let them try to figure out the roster that way. But now they're in panic mode. They've lost 3 out of 4 matches or something like that. They've dropped games against bad teams. So I think that FPX is actually panicking and thinking to themselves, we need to do whatever we can to get to Worlds. Once we lock down a World spot, then we can worry about playing Con if we need to in a specific matchup. So very interesting, a very expensive mistake potentially. Let's move on. So next up, Cloud9. So this was surprising for me. I thought that Cloud9 was not going to be in our top 10. I have them ranked 14th currently. So justify yourself.
Yeah, it's to me this feels like about where I would put them. More or less. I think it's good to have. I think having them here is helpful because it sort of contextualizes where the leagues
Yeah.
rate relative to each other, right? And to me, I think you can certainly quibble with they should be, you know, 10th or 15th or maybe even a little bit lower. But to me, they are equal, and I think the same thing for the top teams in the LEC. They're in that sort of second tier of LCK and
Okay,
LPL
sure.
teams, and if you threw them out there and had them play a best of five, I think they'd be probably a
Okay,
dog, but a
sure.
live dog. When you start getting into the T1s and the IGs and the JDGs, I think those teams are a class above your
Yeah.
European and American teams. So I'm okay with them being there, but certainly sympathetic to the view that they might be
Yeah.
a
So,
couple slots too high.
in my rankings, I have them below Fun Plus Phoenix, Sunning, LGD, and World Elite, as well as Mad Lions. Um, so, yeah, interesting. But I think that's a good
Yeah.
explanation.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to note here is, where that they are sort of beneficiaries of being like, you know, both of us are relatively high on them, whereas like G2 is below them in sort of the combined rankings because you're lower on them. Evil Geniuses is much lower because I'm much lower on them. So I think there's a consensus that C9 deserves to be somewhere around here, whereas with teams a couple slots below
Yeah.
them, you might have
So
differences.
next up, there was a spoiler. I switched slides a little too early. So now we have Sunning. So Sunning was one of the teams I identified in the offseason as a team that could make noise in the summer split and in the playoffs, specifically because of how the meta is going to shift. So my whole thing before the season started was if Sunning can get off to an okay start, like go 500 in the beginning of the season, then by the end of it, they'll be in a spot where they can actually get into the playoffs and actually compete with some of these really good teams for a playoff spot. And apparently, Sunning was like, why do that when we can just be good? So now, apparently, Sunning is a good team. So do you have anything you want to say about Sunning?
My numbers love their bot lane and their top lane. Rates them both as the combination
Yeah.
of Huanfeng and Sword Art and Bin up top as some of the best in the LPL. So I think it gives them a couple different ways to win, and they've just been constantly, I think, exceeding expectations
Yeah.
this split.
That is
So
so true,
glad
and
to see them
it
here.
just clicked in my mind that that's kind of what's going on right now because S of M and Angel have been creating leads that the rest of the team they're the real beneficiaries. The rest of the team are the real beneficiaries. So Bin has had some great games, like Renekton games specifically. S of M was really the surprise in the beginning of the split. I think S of M has played very well. Real life League of Legends, not necessarily for DraftKings, not necessarily for like our rankings and stuff like
Right.
that. But I just think as a player, he's been very consistent. Angel, I'm still not very high on Angel. I think that I don't think that I love the solo laners as much as I love the bot lane or the jungler, but I think that this is great. Sunning's finally cracked the top 10. It's too bad that I couldn't do it before ESPN Esports. That kind of hurts a little bit because they were unfortunately 10th as well in the ESPN Esports rankings. So let's go to our next team, V5. So V5, everybody's favorite team because of their names, the Big Dick Bot Lane. I think I'm still concerned with V5. I don't love Bew. Wei Wei is a question mark in a lot of matchups. Mole is a player that I liked a lot last split. And then I do think that Sam D and the PP God are actually good laners. So in this meta where you can build an advantage through stacking dragons and like having an incremental gold lead throughout the game, I think that it's very viable right now. I'm actually curious to see how they perform in a late game meta because I think that Huanfeng and Sword Art are better at that style of League of Legends than Sam D and PP God. So it'll be a thing where like if the meta continues to shift towards the bot lane, people might automatically think, oh well, V5 they're a bot lane first team. This is going to be perfect for them, and then they fall apart. If that happens, I'm gonna look so smart, like a couple weeks from now, or a month from now. That's basically all I have on V5. So, did it take your rankings a long time to adjust for V5?
It actually didn't. Although some of that might just be luck. So the rankings at this point, well, I guess the rankings on that I post every week, these rankings do have a league adjustment, but the rankings I post every week do not have a league adjustment. And so for Sam D and PP God, the fact that they had performed so well in the
I remember that
LDL,
now.
my model gave them credit for that. And so I've been high on V5 pretty much all split, and they've been one of the teams where that sort of quirk worked in my favor. Certainly have been some where it did not. I think the main point of differentiation, and I think this is definitely my viewing the league through a DraftKings lens, is that I love Weiwei. He
We're gonna clip
is
that.
one of the best
We're gonna clip that.
junglers in the league. So yeah, he did. I mean, just from his output when he did. I mean, you're certainly right. He has terrible games, but when he goes off,
No
he
way,
really
Weiwei
goes
goes
off.
off. That's
Had
crazy.
a 10. No, yeah. I don't know if you guys heard he had a 10 kill game and a loss the other day. So that's
Yeah,
just gotta give him
yeah.
his due.
And hey, I mean, the top laner and the jungler both came from Sunning. So more credit for
There you
Sunning.
go.
So V5,
Represent.
the rankings are going to get a little weird soon. So everyone, relax. Do not freak out at me, please. We're gonna go ahead, and every time I push this button now, I'm gonna feel like it might be a bomb going off. So let's see if it's this time. Let's see if this is the one. No, it is not. Well, it kind of is, but it's not. So T1. T1, I'm huge. I'm a huge T1 fan. I think long term T1 is going to be fine. If I could, I'd rank them higher, but I feel like it's unreasonable to put them much higher. They've looked shaky recently. They're not playing well against bad teams, and they're not playing well against good teams, so then you have to move them down. Draft has been a lot of their problem, and macro has been a lot of their problem. They're not fighting over the right objectives because their draft is putting them into a bad spot. But I don't have much to say. Faker, best player of all time. Teddy's amazing. Teddy's so good. Teddy's probably the best player on the team right now. And then Kana has looked very good, even though the jungle's been a question mark. So what do you have? What do you have for T1?
I concur. I think the performance, you got to discount them a little bit. I think every team above them is really good. So I don't think it's any sort of short shrift to say that they're behind them right now. But I think as we talked about coming in, I would still put them in the top tier teams.
All
in the
right,
world.
This might be the button that does it. Nope. Okay, good. We're safe. Invictus Gaming. I love Invictus Gaming. I'm higher on Invictus Gaming. Between the two of us, I have them right now as the third best team in the world. I've been on the IG bandwagon all last split, all of this split. Everybody's freaking out because for DraftKings, they're a tough team to roster. It's like, oh, Invictus Gaming won another match, but they won 2-1, and they actually had less kills in one of their wins, and the other team scored a ton of points because they give up so many kills, and they're just a very tilting team to root for. But ever since the Shy played Gnar, I've been playing Gnar, so, no big deal. I'm basically the second best Gnar in the world. I don't have anything else to say about Invictus Gaming. I think their bot lane is not very good. They're kind of the question mark. Rookie's great. The Shy is great. And Ning has been pretty good. Baolan coming back might actually be a benefit, but who knows. So what do you have for Invictus Gaming? I guess you can speak to the DraftKings hatred, right?
Yeah. I think they're. I think that's the consensus right now, and for that reason, I've actually been trying to get overweight on IG anytime they play because I think it's just as easy that they 100%. Can flip flop, and they have games where they go off for 27, 30 kills. So if I can get leverage on IG, I'm going to try to take it every single time. Only thing I'd say that I think for out of these top 8 or top 7 teams, we both have them ranked somewhere between 1 and 8. So I think that once you get to V5 or maybe even Suning, you can start to have these sort of discussions. But it feels like the two of us agree on who the top 8 teams in the world
are. Let's go to the next one. JDG. Is that right? That's wrong.
That's what. So I guess if you're with the average, JDG, IG, and the team that will come next are all ranked the same. They're all average out of 5.
So we're technically not wrong. Yeah. So good. So JDG. JDG is a very consistent team. I think that the world at large is kind of sleeping on them. I am also kind of sleeping on them in my rankings because I still don't believe in the long-term talent of Yagao or Loken. I think that right now they're being carried pretty hard by Kanavi, and if this game goes to a late game meta, then I'm just not I'm not convinced they're going to do very well. Last week I had JDG as 6th, still have them as 6th. I had T1 dropping down. I had Invictus Gaming jumping them because I just like Invictus Gaming more. I think they have the higher upside. They've shown that they can get it done on the world stage, and I think that they're more meta resilient because their playstyle is ridiculous, and it's always ridiculous. It's like no matter what, they play these weird games that other teams just aren't going to be used to, and I think that's a lot of fun. So have there been any standout performers for you on JDG?
They definitely line up with. So they're one of the few teams in the league where all 5 players are grayed out as above average. But Zoom and Kanavi in particular, Kanavi it grades out as maybe the one of the top 3 junglers by this metric. There's someone who is just crushing, and I can't find him in my chart, which I think might be like I mean, you know what? Sure. It's Blabber. That's who it is. Blabber's 1 because he's in the LCS and crushing everybody, and then Weiwei and Kanavi are probably the next 2 in terms of this metric. But the other 3 are certainly closer to average. JDG has been crushing just their consistency, and I think they're sort of, for an LPL team, their conservative play style helps them here because they don't have those wacky games like IG does where they might lose or win a game where they barely have a gold lead or something. It will hurt them in this metric. And for that reason, JDG, since the middle of Spring Split, has just been at or near the top. They made me a lot of money during the playoffs and on DraftKings because
humble brag.
Just kept hammering them. So yeah, humble brag. My point being that I trust them here. I think they're a very good team. I think that I as a new LOL fan, I've never seen a Worlds match live, so certainly just have to trust your take on that, and we'll see what they can do once they get there, once the meta changes. But JDD is a team that I like, and I think they deserve
All right,
to be up
next
there.
up, click. GenG. GenG is a team that moved a little bit in the rankings. They went from 9th to 8th in mine. Billy is an LCK fanboy and is out of his mind. He thinks that the LCK is better than every region by far, so the rankings kind of pulled them up because of Billy. So if anybody's going to yell at anyone, yell at him. Now, what do you think?
Yeah. They've had some good wins recently, right? And that has inflated them both in my numbers, both within the LCK, and then, as you said, the LCK is by my rudimentary adjustment that I've come up with the best region in the world, so they get an extra bump there. I think I'd rather take the other 3 teams we just talked about ahead of them. If we were doing a series and I had so I'd pick if they're playing a 5-game series against JDG, I'd probably take JDG. I would definitely take T1 over them, despite the recent results for both of those teams, and I would probably take IG. Although that one, just the variance that IG brings to the table against the consistency of GenG might give me a little pause, but I'm okay with them being here, but I like your ranking better than mine.
The thing for GenG, Piosik, I think, very good. Wait, I have that backwards. It's Clid. Yeah, so Clid.
Yeah,
Clid, very good jungler coming from T1.
Right.
BDD, very good mid laner. Almost undoubtedly a top 2 mid laner in terms of current form in the LCK, or top 3. And then Ruler's been playing out of his mind. So apparently an Ashe meta is like the best thing possible for Ruler. So that's basically that. Let's go next. Top Esports. So Top Esports, I still have them as number 1. What is the average weighted rank for this? So this is your fault.
They are 3.
This is your fault.
Fault.
Top Esports, Knight. Knight is certainly one of the best players in the world. The question marks would be top lane on the world stage. I think Karsa has shown that he is a very good player, but Karsa has already shown weakness on the world stage, where he doesn't play as well as he's supposed to. If Lee Sin, Lee Sin is getting nerfed, so that might actually negatively impact Top Esports in the short term and the long term. And then Jackie Love, very good in the bot lane. I don't have much more to say. We agree that Top Esports is one of the best teams in the world. So not much more to go off of on this one.
Yeah, I think the just to echo your praise of Knight. So this metric that I keep looking at, it's the opponent's gold per minute, above what the opponent
Mm-hmm.
normally averages. So a lower number here is a good. So in Blabber's case, he ranks the best in the world in this metric. The opposing jungler averages 72% of their normal
That's pretty
gold
good.
output when they play Blabber. For Knight, I think he might be the next best player in the world by this metric. And the fact that it's in the LPL
Yeah.
makes it even more bananas in my mind. 76.3%.
Wow.
So if a guy normally puts out 400 gold a minute, you can expect him to
That
do
is pretty
300
insane.
against Knight, which is just bananas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is not what I thought, but that is pretty insane. That's pretty insane. All right, we'll go
Yeah.
next. Hopefully, everyone's still watching the video after you besmirched Top Esports.
I praise Knight though, so I hopefully
Yeah,
got
so
a little
next
bit of
up we
credit
have
back.
DRX. I think that DRX is the best team in Korea by the eye test. And obviously, we're using the EGOT ranking for Billy's rankings right now, and it's not necessarily how he would rank the teams, so we are kind of trolling. But DRX, very good team, very consistent team. Chovy and Deft are two very good carry players. Piosik has been good and bad. And then we have Keria, who has been the best support player in the world this year. So that is really the incredible thing for DRX is that they thought he was like a question mark last split, I think, but maybe it was just nerves and getting used to playing in the LCK. But champion pool is very good. DRX as a team allows him to play these different kinds of champions, which is perfect. That's the perfect kind of playstyle in my opinion for League of Legends. Is you need to give your players flexibility to bring unique champions into their pools, because the reason they're gravitating towards those champions is there are a lot of subconscious and unconscious reasons, subconscious, mostly subconscious reasons, that their intuition is pulling them towards these other kinds of champions. So if you're a player who plays hundreds of games, and you start thinking to yourself, I've played a lot against this one champion. Let's bring in something like Pantheon support and try to abuse Hex Flash and then also punish all these other champions that are being played right now. That's how you have to think about League of Legends to create a competitive advantage. So when we get to Worlds, I would expect a team like DRX to have a few tricks up their sleeve. They've run some very interesting compositions in the LCK already this year. Very difficult to execute, but you have to try them out. Otherwise, you're not going to have those in your back pocket when you get to Worlds. So do you have anything for DRX, or do you want to get on to the final team?
No, I'm on board with all that. Let's unveil
So the number
the
one
top
weighted
team here.
team in the world right now, and the first place team in the inaugural League of Items Global Power Rankings is Damwon Gaming. Damwon. So Damwon Gaming is really a one-man show. Showmaker is ridiculous. I think that if everyone watched the LCK when Showmaker is playing and then watched Knight when he's playing, I mean, it's tough to differentiate between the two in terms of their ability and their impact on the game. Showmaker and Knight, really, they both have like this kind of effortless quality about them where they're like continuously smiling and joking on their cams that you can see. So it's pretty funny. Like, they both think it's hilarious how good they are at the game, and they just dominate people. It'll be very cool to see them at Worlds when it's a little bit more serious. Maybe they get more serious, and like the pressure kind of gets to them a little bit. Damwon Gaming hasn't been able to sustain long-term success in the past, so I'm not 100% convinced that they are the best team in the world right now. Head-to-head, I guess it would be what? Doran against 369. That's kind of a wash. Oh, Nagri. Yeah,
Naguri.
okay, never mind. So yeah, Nagri against 369. I'd probably prefer Nagri. Why am I blanking on the players? Showmaker in the mid lane against Knight is also a wash. In the bot lane, we have Ghost and Beryl, right? Yeah, so Ghost and Beryl, I think, are... Again, they have a lot of unique champions that they play, which is very cool. That's a big plus in my book. Senna, as long as they don't touch Senna, it's going to be basically a permaban for them at Worlds, I think. Jackie Love and Yu Yanja, I think they're probably a little overrated in terms of how good they actually are relative to the rest of the world. And And then jungler for Damwon Gaming is Canyon. I haven't been big on Canyon, but Canyon's been playing well consistently, so maybe I have to give more credit. I think a lot of that has to do with Showmaker, but I'm definitely upgrading my opinion of Canyon as time goes on. So yeah, I think Damwon Gaming is a very good team. I am surprised that they're number one with our weighted averages, but it does make sense. I think that they definitely have a chance to compete at Worlds this year.
I feel like that to me they've sort of done what JDG has done in the LPL, where they don't have those off games. I think that the T1 and DRX, they've had some drafts where even the commentators in the LCK cast are like, what are they doing here? Are they not taking this seriously? Are they, underrating their opponent? Are they bored? DWG doesn't have those games. They show up, and even if they're playing, Sandbox or SP, they just wipe the floor with them. They do it in 25 minutes, and they get out of dodge. And so my numbers reward them for that. I think the other teams are more talented. I think they're more exciting to watch, which probably, as a newbie fan, also biases me towards them. My numbers do. They, unsurprisingly love Showmaker. They also love Beryl.
Well, because he plays with Senna all the time, so he's getting additional CS. He's getting the additional gold. That's actually something I hadn't really considered, but that makes sense.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense, and actually it probably explains the next thing, which is that Ghost actually grades out really poorly as an ADC, but if he's giving up that farm, then that would be an explanation for why.
I think public consensus is that Ghost is not very good.
Which I think that these numbers would bear out for whether it's for the right reason. We can leave for someone else to decide, but yeah. So I think they certainly are a very good team. And I think to me, it feels like they're sort of number one by default right now, that the rest of these teams at the top have shown a couple of warts or, maybe a little bit of lack of focus over the last 2 weeks. And they've sort of ceded some ground here, whereas DWG has kept their foot on the pedal throughout the entire
the top Esports and Damwon Gaming are like very, very similar. It's kind of insane, like play style. And I think that when you said like they don't take games off, it is kind of because they like killing their opponent. Like T1 is like, oh, look at this. Yeah. We just beat a team 6-0. Look how good we are. And then Damwon Gaming and Top Esports, like, we just beat somebody 30-0. It was amazing. Like that's kind of what they want to do. So it's completely different approach to the game. Yeah. So we have a few teams that we wanted to mention before we get out of here because they were obviously not included in what was intended to be a top 10, but then got a little bigger. So we have three teams. We have Mad Lions, G2, and Evil Geniuses. I'll do a quick hit, and then if you want... Actually, you go first. You go first, and then I'll do it, and then we'll close it
out. G2 and Mad Lions, I think, Cloud9 is just blowing the doors off of the LCS in my numbers, and so they get a little... They make their way into the top 10 from a world perspective. The LEC is much closer together and is discounted... relative to the LPL and LCK for this world ranking in my numbers. So they fall probably a little further behind or a little further down the rankings than they deserve to be. But I think that I may be lower on the LEC than general consensus. And then Evil Geniuses is a team that, we talked about in pretty good length on the longer video. My numbers just hate them for some reason. I think that Huni and a few other guys, grade out well, but with Golden Glue and Sven Skaren, which may just be sort of approach, they really fall behind in these numbers and grade out as like one of the worst teams in the world, which I don't think is accurate. But certainly, I think that I would just sort of based, trusting the numbers, I would say that I'm certainly lower on them than
So the rankings that I have if we're looking at the Western region, I was going to say that actually real quick. I think that both of us are lower on the LEC than most people, but the difference between us is that I'm also low on LCS, and your numbers are not as low on LCS. That's kind of what's making the difference between us.
I think the numbers are low on the LCS.
So
it's just that Cloud9 has been so much better than all the other teams that they sort of are able to overcome that.
Sure.
But
anyway, Mad Lions, I finally put above G2 in my rankings this week. I think that Mad Lions is number 1 in the West. I think that C9 is number 2 in the West. G2 is number 3 in the West. and I have Evil Geniuses as 4th. So G2, even with their recent struggles, I think long term they'll be fine. Perks is too good. I know he's been dealing with a lot of like family stuff. Like maybe that is having an impact on him, but I think it's mostly just a narrative. So we won't be able to kind of figure that one out unless they crash out of playoffs and we can't see them at Worlds. But I still expect them to do well the rest of the season and at Worlds. Evil Geniuses is a team that I'm very optimistic about. I love Hooney. I think that Bang's a very good player. I think that Svenskerin's a pretty good player. Golden Glue is the perfect style of mid laner for Evil Geniuses because it's going to allow Bang to get into late game team fights at roughly even and then really show that he is like one of the best AD carries in the West for sure. And then Zazel's just kind of there. But I think overall I'm pretty happy with how these came out. I gave people some graphics instead of stare sheets instead of spreadsheets to stare at is what I was going to say. But yeah, this went longer than I thought as well. I think we're just we're doomed to have long videos. Next time, I promise, we'll do a top 10 in 10 minutes. We'll do it next week. Get off my back. This is what you get. Billy, if you want to say goodbye, now is the time. Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.